Oh, welcome everybody, it's your boy Dave, and today we are doing the Sekiro boss tier list. I have done my boss tier lists for Dark Souls 1 and 3. I don't believe I did one for 2. I might have. Sorry, Dark Souls 2 fans, if I did and don't remember, I want to scrub that game from my mind completely. But yeah, today we were doing Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Every shadow dies. Shadows die. I always get those. Just Sekiro. It's all that matters. And I'm doing the main bosses in this tier list because there's a lot of side bosses and there's a lot of repeat side bosses. And for the side bosses, if I can remember the side bosses, I will verbally say what tier they're in. If I don't remember the side bosses and you're genuinely interested, you can comment down below and I will tell you in the comment section and pin your comment. Uh, but yeah, these are the tiers. Your normal tier list tiers: S to D to trash, S to trash. Trash is trash, and then nope are the ones that I didn't do, which is some of the alternate ending stuff and other stuff that I don't know. I just know I didn't do these fights. And um, to just jump into it, this again, I could be wrong with this because this is confusing me a bit because there's three Genichiro on here, and one of them is the main Genichiro fight at the top of the castle. The other one's the Genichiro fight before the final boss. Also, I guess I should say this, but spoilers ahead. If you're already this far, you should probably know that. And then I think you fight Genichiro at the very beginning, and I think that's this fight, which honestly is just like it's like I don't. I'll put it in C because technically it'd be a pretty solid fight. I'm not a fan of beginner boss fights that you're supposed to fail. Like, I don't think that the game should plan on you losing the first fight just because you're supposed to. And then after this, there's a few side bosses here and there. I know there's just like a lot of the early game side boss. They're not even side bosses because they are bosses you have to beat to pass parts of the game. But a lot of the bosses that you have to fight early game that are like not big multiple health bar bosses, a lot of them are, how would I put this? They're very much just regular enemies. Like they're just regular dudes with like a spear or with a katana that's just has more poise and does more damage than the other enemies in the areas. Uh, so a lot of them aren't really all that memorable, especially this early in the game. I want to say Chained Ogre, which I feel like should be on this boss list. Chained Ogre. Chained Ogre was probably one of I think is the first one that I can remember. And Chained Ogre would probably be B tier, just because I think it's a fun fight. Um, moving past that, Gi Gyobu, the horse brother. I will put in C tier next to Genichiro. Um, this fight in terms of like style, like in terms of its design and what it is pretty okay. Like I'd say it being a fight where you fight a dude on a horse and his voice acting and like all that aesthetic work would be B tier. I just despise the mechanics of this fight. The mechanics are pretty much just stand still, block, 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 opportunity to hit him, then you stand still again, block, block, block. It's not. I feel like there's way less skill involved and a lot more just knowing how to cheese the video game this early on, and it's just not the most fun. Which there's a lot of fights in this game. Sekiro is the most either it's amazing or the most annoying thing ever of any video game I've ever played. But yeah, I want to say after Gyobyu, I'm pretty sure I put these in order. So if this order is incorrect, that's on me. But yeah, I know Lady Butterfly is the dream world where you fight again a few bosses that I remember are pretty regular. One of them's the spear dude that where you pretty much learn Makiri for, and that fight's pretty good. It's not anything special. Again, it's probably B or C tier. A lot of those smaller fights. Um, and then you fight Juzo the Drunkard. It's Juzo, right? I'm pretty sure. And it's the first time you fight him. I think you can fight him again later on, but I don't think I did. But Juzo the Drunkard's probably again a C B tier fight. Nothing spectacular, but pretty solid. Lady Butterfly though, I think I'll put her in A tier for now. This could change depending on what else I put in these upper tiers later on. But Lady Butterfly is, in terms of aesthetic and design, is really cool. Her design in particular is not amazing, but the boss room and the designs of her attacks and all that's really fun. Her attack, the way you fight it isn't like anything revolutionary in terms of a fight and learning her like moveset, but it is pretty solid, I would say. And I would just say it's a pretty good fight overall. I might move it down to B tier, depending on how I feel at some point. But it's really low A tier, if not high B tier. And after that on this list, again, I don't remember the order. I don't know if you go to Genichiro first and then these other guys, or if you do Genichiro after. But I'm pretty sure it's Genichiro first, these guys, then Great Shinobi Ao. But I'm trying to think if there's any mini bosses or smaller bosses. I know 7 Ashina spears, I think you can do before. I think I did before Genichiro, and that one's a pretty okay one. It's that one. A lot of the smaller bosses in this game really are just figure out a path to backstab and then fight on one life for and just chill. And that's what 7 Ashina spears is. It's pretty much sneak through the area to get behind him to then get him down to 1 health bar or 1 death blow, and then Mikiri, make sure you block, and then death blow. It's nothing. Again, I feel like the mechanics of the game are really well done, except for the few bosses where I felt like they just didn't work very well. But I feel like the game really a lot of the game relies on the whole concept of sneaking around like a ninja, and it makes sense. It's a ninja game, like I understand. But then at the same time, a lot of the areas just aren't like built for sneaking around because there's so many areas where you just gotta run through it to get to the boss. But then there's some areas where you gotta know to slow down and sneak for like 5 seconds to sneak up to get a death blow in. And 7 Ashina Spears is one of those. And I know Long Arm Swordsman's around there. I want to see one of the first Centipede fights is in that general time. The Centipede fights are awful. The second one is a lot easier than the first one, and I don't think the first one is at all required. I know the second one is, but it is pretty much he just charges at you, and you just spam parry. But yeah. Uh, Moving on to the ones that I can remember for sure and when they happened. Genichiro is an S tier fight. I hated Genichiro so much for so long because I again, if you're watching my streams or whatever, I think it's my controller because I was straight up just watching my controller just lie to me on button inputs. Not even just like miss it. Like Dark Souls 3 and like Dark Souls in general, you'll like I'll have the occasional be like dodge, dodge, dodge. I'm clicking dodge, it's not dodging, and that's usually because of stamina restraints. But in this game, I feel like just randomly sometimes your character will stop just doing whatever you're doing in the order you were doing it, and I felt like that was happening on Genichiro. Once I got in through Genichiro, I think more I would say it's just a great fight. Uh, I'm debating. You know what? For now, I'll change this if it gets to it. I'll move these down a tier. Again, Lady Butterfly is really fun, but nothing like I don't think it's anything spectacular. And like the second phase thing where she like spawns like ghosts or whatnot isn't particularly amazing. And Genichiro, again, phase 3 is really good, but phase 1 and 2 is just another regular combat fight that is really fun to try to learn, but sometimes it was overtly annoying, so it wasn't my favorite. I don't know the orders of these three. I'll do Screen Monkeys first. It's trash. It's the most boring boss fight I've ever had in a video game, which is saying a lot because I beat like 30, like 8 or 9 of the bosses in Dark Souls 2, which is crazy work by me. And I know I didn't beat all of the bosses or even beat the game technically, but I want a round of applause because holy crap, Dark Souls 2 sucks. But yeah, Screen Monkeys, if you know what you're doing, I can imagine it being the easiest fight in the Soulsborne games. But if you don't know what you're doing, it is literally just running around for like 20 to 30 minutes trying to catch monkeys in this boring, just absolutely tedious process. Because I didn't realize what I was supposed to do. Like there was tricks to catching each monkey. So like I was chasing the last monkey for like 10 minutes when I realized I get him to a specific spot, hit the freaking drum, and it'll make him freak out. And I did that and it worked, and then there we go. But it's so boring. There's no redeeming qualities. Even if it is easy, there's still nothing good about it. It's not like easy means fun, but it's just boring. Corrupted Monk, I think the first Corrupted Monk fight I'll put in C. I think I'll move the Genichiro fight to D because it's so nothing a fight. Like it's in terms of what it like the mechanics of the fight, it's good, but it's like a like minute max and you're expected to lose and you don't actually do much with it. So I'll just move it down. Corrupted Monk, the first fight. Again, Corrupted Monk, I think doesn't benefit at all because it's not very good. It's just like Reed spins. You gotta read when he spins, and that's pretty much it. It's just not. I don't know. It's not a super memorable fight for the main bosses. It wasn't particularly easy, but it wasn't like as difficult as some of the other fights. So I don't know. It just wasn't anything spectacular. I know Orin, the water something, the water girl, she's before that fight, and that fight I feel like was a little better. A lot less memorable because it took less attempts, but it was a fun fight. Um the Corrupted Monk's not anything spectacular. Now, Guardian Ape, S tier. I fucking love this fight. And I don't know what the like consensus is, because the only person that I really know who's played this or talked about it is Solar Machete, my friend that I pretty much talk and work with streams and stuff on a lot. Um, and Guardian Imp he despises. It's one of these least favorite fights in the game, and it is probably my favorite fight in the game, and probably one of my favorite fights in the entirety Soulsborne games that I've played so far. Obviously, I haven't played Bloodborne or uh, Elden Ring, but of Dark Souls 1 through 3 in this, in Sekiro, Guardian Ape is one of my favorites. And comment down below, anybody who's, paying attention, uh, how you felt about Guardian Ape. Because Guardian Ape intrigues me, because I can see, it's a difficult fight. It is a hard fight. But it is fun hard. It isn't, like, impossible hard. It is quite enjoyable for me to just complete and do. Um, and I like the mechanics. I like that it incorporates dodging more than a lot of the fights, which is another thing that I hate about Sekiro. Is so many people are like, don't dodge. Dodging is almost useless in this game. With half of the fights in this game, you can dodge in, and it is beneficial to all hell. Almost every single fight that I struggled on, the second I started incorporating dodges, I did better. So the people that just spam parry, 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 I know a lot of the time it's a troll and like a joke in the Sekiro community, but the people who think that's a serious like how you play the game annoy me. But yeah, I love Guardian Ape. It's probably in my top 5 fights all time of the ones that I played so far. And if it's not top 5, it's top 10 guaranteed. I will love to look at a Soulsborne boss list, complete boss list once I'm done. Even though I'll have Dark Souls 1, 3, Sekiro, and probably do an Elden Ring one. And then you'll see me do all of them at once in like this mega video. and where I'm gonna forget a lot of them, especially I'll have the Dark Souls 2 ones, and then not have done any of the Bloodborne ones because the Soulsborne tier list, I assume all are gonna have Bloodborne on them. Voice crack, sick. But I love Guardian Ape. I know I keep repeating this, but it's a great fight. After Guardian Ape, again, I could have this order wrong, but it's Great Shinobi Owl. It's when you go back up to the top of Ashina Castle, you do a couple of the side ones again. I know there's a second Chained Ogre fight, which again, Chained Ogre is probably low B tier, mid B tier. It's pretty solid. Um, I know the dude who's in the room before Genichiro's first fight. I want to say he's back, or it's a different person in that room, which is an annoying fight if you don't know what to do. But if you do know what to do, it's quite simple. Um, but then yeah, it's Great Shinobi Owl, which I think kind of does wants to be Genichiro. I just don't think it is. I want to say I'll say A tier, but B's clear. Genichiro is probably mid to high A, while Al is probably low A, borderline B. I think Al is a solid fight. It's just the the things that it adds as you get deeper into the fight aren't as interesting as the Genichiro stuff. Like the Genichiro stuff adds the lightning and adds all of that stuff, and it's fun. Al kind of just pops dust. But in terms of mechanically, it's pretty good. I liked it a lot. Again, I also struggled with this in terms of like me thinking I was having a stroke with my button inputs. But next is True Monk, which I think is a little better than Corrupted Monk. I think the multiple phase aspects and the drop attacks add a lot to this fight, where you pretty much it's kind of the same as the original one, but I feel like the boss arena, even though the boss arena feels like it should be worse, and I feel like the community standard would be that it is worse, but it felt better to me. It felt easier to dodge the spinny moves on the bridge in the daylight. And I don't know. I don't know. People might hate it because his phases are kind of dumb and you kind of drop attack more as like cheese for the fight, even though it's technically the mechanic, so it's not really a cheese. Um, but I don't know. For some reason, I liked it more, and I don't know why. Headless Ape, I'm going to go. I think C tier, high C tier. I think I might move Gyobu up. Gyobu's really fun in terms of aesthetics, because the dude on the horse is a cool idea, and the voice acting is insane. But I don't know. I think I will. Yeah, I think this will be low B with like around here. Headless Ape. Again, I love Guardian Ape, as I've said multiple times. So Headless Ape, you'll it wouldn't be a shocker to know that I love Headless Ape's first phase. The second phase is just annoying. Like there being two of the apes in the arena don't do anything in terms of like actual parrying or dodging difficulty. It just makes it harder because you have no space the whole time. The thing with Guardian Ape is you have to keep your distance. You have to make sure you are not on top of him because he will hit you and he will hit you a lot and he will hit you hard and he will hit you fast. With Guardian Ape 2, with Headless Ape, when there's two of them in the arena, and you have to worry about them dodging heavy, hard, and fast attacks from two different directions at the exact same time. It's just annoying. In the first phase, which again I really like because it is just Guardian Ape, I still think is worse because even if it is Guardian Ape, technically, it is way easier because you do a lot more damage, and I think it might have less health. It might not have less health. It just definitely has. It just definitely you do a lot more damage at that point. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. Um, so I don't know. The first phase is Guardian Ape, which I love, but the first phase is just way too easy to carry the second phase, which I kind of despise. But yeah. And I guess at this point I was doing other mini bosses. So other mini bosses I can think of Shichiman Warriors. I hope I'm saying that right. The dudes that like shoot the like cursed head things at you, and there's multiple of them. The Shichiman Warrior fights I would say are C tier. they're not bad fights. And again, Solar Machete, my friend, he like downplayed them as like the worst parts of these games, and I didn't think they were that bad. I think it took a few attempts, and it was kind of tedious. You had to grind out for uh specific items to be able to actually survive and attack in the fight, which is annoying. And they weren't particularly great fights, but they once you figured out how, the items you had to use and how the fights work, they were pretty easy. Now, I will say Headless lived up to the infamy a bit more because he also hated Headless. Some of the Headless were pretty easy. Again, tedious, but pretty easy. But the holy heck, the underwater Headless fights are despicable. The first one is super easy. The one in the lake at Ashina Castle is super easy. But the one in the like snowy area, I forget what it's called, the snowy area with the second bull, which I haven't talked about bull yet. That's a fight I forgot. The Ashina in the really deep lake is awful. It is so unnecessary to have it that deep in the water when you know you need to pop two items to be able to fight him. And when you pop the two items, half of the timer runs out just swimming to him because you can't pop the items while underwater. Plus, there's two of them, both shooting projectiles at you. And I know it's easier to dodge in the water, but it's just so tedious and annoying. So Headless would probably be more D tier for most of the fights. Maybe one of them or two of them in C tier because some of them I actually liked. And I know the Glutton dude was in the area next to one of the Headless as well, and that's probably again just like Juzo and high C, low B. But let's talk about the bull, the blazing bull, brazing bull, blazing bull. So, there's two bull fights. There's a bull fight after Gyobyu, which is probably a trash. It's probably in trash because I hated it. I played through the game, skipped like 8 bosses. I didn't skip 8 bosses, but I skipped like 4 or 5 bosses and went to Gyobyu. And let me tell you, when I got to after Gyobyu and got to the bull was the most tediously dumb thing ever. It is not easy. It's not easy to dodge. You can't really parry it because it does too much fire damage for you to parry it. So what you have to do is pretty much run. You just continuously sprint until you get the bull in positions where you can attack it and it's kind of turning. And you do that for both fights. But the boss arena for the first fight is so bad and it's so dumb that early on the game. It throws out the whole mechanics of Sekiro. It's ridiculous how bad of a fight it is. But I will say for the second bull fight, I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. It was not quite a bit. I'd still say it's probably low C, high D, because it's still not like a great fight. The mechanics of the fight are still just run until the bull misses you, but it's in a better area. The design's cooler. There's other aspects that you have to take care of as well, so it's better. But no, the bullfights are annoying. Trying to think of anything else sidewise that I can't, because I can think of a few smaller bosses, like in that area after the second bull, and before the lake where the other headless is, around where one of the Shichimen warriors is. I know there's a boss on like the big tree branch, and I again that's another fight that I think is just like fine. It's way too easy to be like taken seriously, but like it's still fun because those are the part like the mechanics in Sekiro that are just great. But that area all leads up to the Divine Dragon fights, and this breaks down Divine Dragon into um, into both phases, which is weird to me. But I'll put them both in trash. Again, not because they're hard, but because they're not at all. They are ridiculously easy. And yes, easy can be a good thing in Souls-like games because it's like when a fight's easy, but it has like cool designs and it's stuff like that. It's like it brings it up. And I will say Divine Dragon is a pretty cool design. I don't think the Old Dragons is a good design at all. Unless I'm being dumb and Old Dragons isn't what I think it is, but it looks like what I think it is. I think it's first phase of the Divine Dragon fight, and if it's not, sorry, I'm just treating it as if it is, because that's what it looks like in the picture. But the first phase is ridiculously just simple. It is literally just dodge a branch every minute and just kill all of the things that barely attack you. And then in like the design's not cool, the fight's not fun. And then the second phase is just dodge some slashes, run up, catch lightning, hit him. And I think the second phase would be in D tier if it wasn't for the fact that it is ridiculously easy, but at the same time, if you're just absolutely clueless, like I was, like I didn't notice because like you don't catch lightning ever in the game. So I had no idea what I was supposed to do because I never ran into the lightning like and knew I could throw it because again, you don't do that at any point in the game. So it confused me. But it was so dumb. And yeah, when I figured it out after like two tries, it was the easiest fight in the game because like Screen Monkeys is easy, but it's the longer fight, so I would say Divine Dragon's easier. But they're just boring. It's just boring. Boring is worse than bad design. Like like Headless and Shichiman are bad design fights. They're dumb that you need the confetti and the pacifying agent to fight. That they have that the Headless like slows you down. That Headless is in a lake and all that. Those are dumb design, but they're not completely boring. Screen Monkeys, Divine Dragon, completely boring. No actual fun was had in these fights. There's nothing. And I don't know why this is the order that these are in right now, but yeah. But moving on to the end game, I want to say after Divine Dragon, you go back and fight a bunch of smaller bosses again. And again, I can't remember. This might have been when Chained Ogre 2 was, not before when I said it. But again, I can't remember a lot of the bosses that weren't like didn't take up a lot of time for me. Um, but yeah, moving on to Hatred Demon. Hatred Demon, I actually didn't beat. I like Hatred Demon because it is very Dark Souls boss like, uh, kind of like Guardian Ape, and I would say even a bit like True Monk, Corrupted Monk. They're very Dark Soulsy fights. The thing with Hatred Demon is I like learning Hatred Demon and learning how to dodge its attacks and learning how to read it. The issue is it's probably the least consistent mechanical fight in the game. Like you will be doing the same exact thing to avoid an attack over and over and over again, and it'll work 10 times in a row. And then it won't work 3 times in a row. And then it'll work 10 times in a row. And then it won't work a time. And then it'll work a few times. And then it won't work 5 times. It's the least consistent thing ever. Like there are some moves where like just for example, he has a move where if he's far enough away, he will like spew lava at you. And if you run straight into the like you run forward into the angle a bit left, he almost always misses because you can go under the lava and miss and avoid it to the side. But for some random attempts, it'll hit you still for no reason. Like it is the least consistent mechanical fight in the game, and it's still a really fun fight that I really like. The only reason I didn't finish it, and I'm not even gonna hold it back for this because it is optional. It's not like a mandatory boss, so I don't care as much. It has too much health. Objectively, too much health. And I get that that's kind of a point. I'm gonna put this in A tier, and I'll put it ahead of Shinobi Al. Objectively, Hatred Demon is fun, but it doesn't work amazingly, which drops it to A. And I could see the argument to drop it to B because it has too much health. Like it's not even like a good difficulty level with how much health it has. It's just like a jokingly bad amount of health. But it is still a really fun fight. The design's amazing, and I just like it. The story behind it's really good. And then we move on to the final fight. And I know there's two here, but they're connected. In Genitro Way of Tomoe, again, I think this is the final one. If it's not, and one of these other two are, I'm sorry. This one he's wearing armor, which he's not, which I think in these two he's not. And the only of the three that I can think of where he's not, where the only one, he wears armor in the first one and the second one, so it's not the third one. So one of these two is the third one, but he also doesn't take off his armor in the first one. So this one has to be the first. You guys understand. And again, if I have these off, this looks like it's on up top, so I think I have this right. But Genichiro Wave Tomoe, the fight Genichiro fight before Saint Ishin, I would say in terms of mechanics is a 10 out of 10. I don't think it's my favorite fight over Guardian Ape still because I don't know, for some reason I just had an incredibly fun time with Guardian Ape. Um but Genichiro Way of Tomoe, learning his mechanics is so brilliant. The design is great. The setting of the boss fight is 10 out of 10, the best setting in the game. The flower field is phenomenal. The only issue is it's one phase and kind of easy. If it was, I would have rather it been two phase and Ishin been two phase and call that a day. But they had to do it one phase to do Ishin three phases. And I kind of dislike that more, even though we'll get to it in a second. But Genichiro 3, I guess, technically. I feel like people say it's Genichiro 2 because people don't really count the first one. But the Genichiro fight at the end of the game is so fun, so well designed, so many good things about it. Except it's too easy and there's only one phase. And the only reason I'm actually going to drag it down to A is that after like 50 attempts of doing this, I maybe had 25 straight of being able to perfectly do it, like either one hit or almost no hit, if not no hitting the first phase, to moving on to Ishin. But my issue is that, like Hatred Demon, randomly after like 50, 60 attempts, Genichiro as a fight changed in random things that were working perfectly for like 50 fights in a row stopped working. And it started to annoy me a lot because I was worrying on Ishin and Ishin was hard. And when I had to focus on Ishin, I didn't want to worry about Genichiro, which I had consistently been no-hitting for a little while. But then I had to start worrying about Genichiro because he was throwing out new combos 60 attempts in, which was annoying. But I'm not holding that strictly back against him. The biggest downfall is this is one phase. If this was two phases, easily S tier, probably my second favorite fight in the game. But my second favorite fight is Saint Ishin. Saint Ishin goes from being the most rage-inducing, you have no idea what to do at all fight. Like, no clue what you're doing. Not a single clue what you're doing. But once you understand how to fight him, it becomes a masterful, beautiful 10 out of 10 setting, 10 out of 10 voice acting, display of perfection. That the only reason I have it behind Guardian Ape is because Guardian Ape threw something fun at a time in the game where I thought the game was so overrated. Like for a good chunk of early and even middle Sekiro, I thought Sekiro was overrated because there's a lot of the mini bosses didn't stand up to the hype because a lot of them were the same thing over and over again, even if they were different mechanically. In theory of how you fought them, it was kind of similar. So yeah. Ishin, I think the longer I sit, and if I replay Sekiro, which I probably will at some point, Ishin might easily move in front of Guardian Ape. But from what I remember and what I was feeling when I was doing Guardian Ape, it was probably the most fun I was having on the game. Except for maybe the last few attempts of Ishin. But like when I'm having an elated time for like 30-ish Guardian Ape attempts, it's probably around there. I don't know. It might be more, it might be less. I don't actually remember. Um, but when I'm elated that much, it doesn't matter if Ishin I had more fun for like 3 attempts in comparison. But Ishin is still phenomenal. I think I'm excited going into Elden Ring because I think after Sekiro, I have finally figured out that I am a big fan of. I am a big fan of just being able to spam boss fight after boss fight, which is a big thing in Elden Ring because there's like 150 bosses. That might have been an exaggeration, but it also might not have. I don't know. I just know there's a lot more bosses in that than there are in all of the other games. But I also really like the Souls like type of boss, like the Dark Souls type of boss. Like you're like I love a good pontiff, like a knight, a big knight dude who swings around a sword and might have a magical power here and there. But I also I I, I love me a good what would be a great example? Like a good Vort or a good Quaalag, where it's just like this big beastly thing that like does has like magic or whatever. And I think your games like Sekiro, and I think your games like Liza P, I think settings wise and aesthetics, I might love far more than Dark Souls. Because the Dark Souls aesthetic I like, but I feel like after 3 games and Elden Ring being very similar in aesthetic, it's kind of getting a little bit older to me. And like that's the thing with Sekiro, is it is a 10 out of 10 aesthetic. The setting is a 10 out of 10, the voice acting is a 10 out of 10, the design's a 10 out of 10, the graphics are 10 out of 10. It except for like I think Hatred Demon for some reason after running the game fine, Hatred Demon had a few moves that made my game like freeze up a little, and I don't know why. But besides that, there's a lot of 10 out of 10 things in Sekiro. There's just some of the mechanics, some of how the game wants you to play, just don't aren't as just aren't as perfect. And there's a lot of a lot of I don't want to say mini bosses because they are a lot of them still are mandatory, but there's a lot of like smaller bosses that less important bosses that are just ridiculously boring or tedious or just like fine for me to think this game's as perfect as some other people think it is. I think this is probably more on par with Dark Souls 3 than Dark Souls 1. And for anybody who doesn't know, I think Dark Souls 3 is my favorite by like a lot. And I will say, I think Dark Souls 3 is ahead of this. I think my current power rankings is Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, Dark Souls 1, all as good games that I liked. Going from Dark Souls 3 being a great game, Sekiro to being a almost great game, Dark Souls 1 being just a good game, to Dark Souls 2 being the worst game I've ever played, but we don't talk about that. So yeah, Ishin, the longer I sit on it, might move up. But right now I love Guardian Ape, which might be like controversial or might not. I don't know. I don't really have a firm grasp on the Soulsborne community. But any of these things that you think is crazy or anything of these things that you want to just comment on or any small side bosses you want me to answer about how I feel because I know I didn't do a great job at remembering them, just comment down below. Even if I did cover a side boss and you just wanted like a more in-depth explanation, you can comment down below too. I'll comment it and I'll pin the comment. And yeah, I know this went a while because I kind of yapped a lot, but that's gonna be the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And have a great day. And join on my streams because I haven't been streaming a lot recently because I've been sick for a while, and it's kind of just not going away. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. I know I voice cracked earlier because of it, but I've been having like a cough. Still, even though I was sick for like 2 weeks, and it's been a week since then, and I still have like a small cough. But yeah, I'll be streaming Elden Ring soon. Probably doing every single boss in Elden Ring. I don't think I'm doing any challenges because it's my first. It's gonna be my first playthrough. But if you want to join along for that, just head on over to my streams, and those streams usually can start anywhere between 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard, U.S. Eastern Standard Time. And it varies. I'm not the most consistent with Chem streams because of college, and again, I've been sick recently. And my weekends, sometimes I'm completely free, sometimes I'm hanging out with family and friends. So yeah, check those out whenever they're available. Again, I know I said this already, but I'm a yapper. Like, comment, subscribe. Subscribing really helps. If you made it this far into the video, I, I'll I'll explain a little and yap a little bit more. But subscribing is free. And even if you don't know if I deserve to subscribe because my content's not the highest of quality at the moment, it is still very, very helpful because at this point in time, you help a small creator like me bloom. And maybe once I get a bit bigger and the content stays roughly the same and or other stuff happens, then you can unsubscribe if you just don't think I change into a good creator. Uh, but subscribing now, giving me the opportunity to try to take leaps with growth it's just very helpful, and it's much appreciated. And I do try to be pretty personal with my community, with it is right now being pretty small. But if you don't, it's fine. Still appreciated for the view, especially if you watch through and are paying attention 40 minutes into this video. But yeah, that's gonna be the end of this video. Hope you all enjoyed, and you are forced to have a great rest of your day. See you all.